Welcome back to the Jumpify Labs podcast, where we explore the people and ideas driving growth in business and in life. Today, we're diving into the story of transformation with Dr. Jessie Glaze. Jessie's path from psychology to physical therapy to somatic coaching has led her to help leaders break free from imposter syndrome and unlock real confidence. Jessie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. How's things in Barcelona?
Oh, they're good. It's gorgeous out. The heat's finally broken. The beach is a little more empty. Tourist season's mostly over. It's nice. It's a good time.
I can't wait to get back there. I was there a couple years ago and I just can't wait. But Jessie, for people who haven't met you yet, how are
hmm
you usually introducing yourself?
All right. I am Dr. Jessie Glaze. I'm a somatic practitioner and licensed physical therapist, and I help sensitive people across the board improve their lives through somatics and deep work.
And you've had a bit of a winding path before
hmm
you actually got into coaching. Can you
hmm
share a little bit about your journey about how you got there?
So, absolutely. I think it's interesting to call it's a winding path to professional coaching. I've been coaching for about 15 years in various capacities. So, I studied psychology and I really focused on trauma psychology. I worked with kids, I worked with adolescents, and I worked on behavior change, which is really just coaching, right? And so, I did a lot of behavior change work there. And after a while, I started to need to space away a little bit from the psychology world. It's a challenging field, and particularly, I work with people who are going through tough times and don't always have a lot of control. And there's only so much I can do. So I decided to focus on what I called like Jessie size problems, like things I could really fix. So I went into physical therapy, right? Because like if your shoulder hurts, I can fix that. If you are having a whole response to a series of events that I can help you develop resilience, but I can't fix those events. And I am pretty sensitive, and that was difficult. So I went to physical therapy school, and wherever you go, there you are. I wound up again working mostly on motivational interviewing, behavior change, working with people who had minor brain injuries, concussions, car accidents, or pelvic floor pain or chronic pain. And so all of my people, once again, were people with some form of trauma. And we were continuing to do all of those same skills I'd been using when I worked in psychology. And I started to incorporate more somatic things. I've been doing yoga for a really long time, and I'm a registered yoga instructor. And I started taking additional trainings around how to use the body to heal. And that led me to coaching almost by accident. I did a workshop and I got my first clients, and someone came up to me and said, "I think I've been looking for you for a long time." We decided to try working together. She got amazing results, and it's kind of just continued in the same way.
Yeah, when you don't know what you don't know until all the experience that you've had made you into this unique person, the way you
hmm
deliver your message, the way you help people, and then it's all of a sudden your cool concoction of all your experience just seems perfectly timed to meet that person. And it just sounds like it's just a perfect storm. Okay. So you mentioned somatic coaching.
hmm
Can you explain for the people that don't know?
Yes. So what I do is I basically use the body as a way to get in contact with your unconscious mind. So about like 5% of your thoughts are conscious. So if you've ever had a moment where you're driving somewhere and then you're there, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? Or you make a decision and you look back, you're like, why did I do that? There's an unconscious reason. There's something in your brain that was like, this is a good idea, and here's why. And when you find yourself in habits or patterns, those are all unconscious wiring. It's a way for your brain to be more efficient. If you do something a lot, your brain automates it. And so there are all different ways to get in contact with that and actually change some of those automations. I use the body. So that's what somatics is at its core, is looking at, okay, your body will give you clues and hints to how you're feeling before you actually are aware that you're feeling it. And your body will give you clues and hints that will stop you more so than other things. So when I talk to people with imposter syndrome, what are you really experiencing? It's I get in front of people, and first my heart starts racing, my chest gets tight, my voice gets quiet, and then I have the thoughts, you don't know what you're doing, right? But those come second. So if we release so that you are no longer feeling tight chest, heart racing, hard to talk, and you're able to project your voice, stand up tall, take a deep breath, those thoughts don't come. That's the simplest way to explain what I do is I work on what is the physical aspect that is stopping you from doing the thing. when you think about taking that chance, when you think about asking for that raise, what happens in your head? What happens in your body? That moment where you're like, oh, I couldn't.
Yeah, that's actually a fascinating topic because I mean, I get anxiety just like anybody else, but
Yeah.
I feel it. My anxiety triggers. I don't really know what's happening in my head, but I just all
Hmm.
of a sudden feel like I can't breathe, and that's
Yeah.
like the anxiety is like, oh, where's this coming from? And I don't know. I just
Yeah.
changed my state. What I'll do is I'll literally if I'm home, I'll take a bucket, I'll put some ice in it, and dump my face in the bucket.
Yeah. And that's a somatic technique. You're using your body to change the way that you feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really cool.
Hmm.
Can you share a story of a client who experienced a breakthrough through your somatic coaching?
Absolutely. So I had a client who would get this feeling, like this back pain, every single time she thought about doing what she really wanted to do, which was she wanted to start her own firm. She was a consultant, she was killing it, working for somebody who had wanted her to change the company, but then refused to give up enough power to actually change the company. So it was a frustrating situation. She was constantly at odds. She loved her team, and her boss was just, and she had this like back pain. And so she was pretty intuitive. We decided to go into it. I was like, okay, describe the back pain. And for her, it was almost this like pulling, sucking feeling. And so I had her embody that for a minute. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And we really go into it. And if you've never done this before, it sounds insane and it works for almost everybody. So she had this like kind of gross, like almost tentacly feeling. And I was like, okay, I want you to like be that for a minute. And she really got into it. Okay, I'm here with it. And I was like, what are you doing right now? And she responded, I'm holding her back. I said, okay, why are you like, I'm talking to the tentacle feeling she has. I'm talking to her back pain. And I said, well, okay, why are you holding her back? She's like, it's safe back here. I was like, okay. And we had this whole conversation. I said, what happens if you let her go? What happens if she moves forward? She's like, what if she dies? I was like, what happens if she dies? Because this is a client I know. She's pretty spiritual. She wasn't that scared of dying. And she's like, I don't know. And the back pain went away.
Wow.
And within 2 weeks, she started her own firm. Like it was crazy.
Wow.
It's such a cool field because that's one technique I do. Some of them are much more like grounded. That's about as woo as we get. But it is powerful to actually lean into what are you feeling physically and let that have a voice. That's a signal, right? From your brain.
Mm,
It's sending you some kind of a signal. Something is happening. Every time I try to do this, I get nauseous. Every time I do this, my chest gets tight. I can't breathe. My voice gets quiet. Why? And when we actually let that part, instead of trying to change it, trying to fix it, trying to tamp it down, when you let that part have its say in whatever way, you get the information you need and it actually starts to dissolve.
wow. That
Yeah,
is really cool. I'm
it's
into all
super
this
cool.
stuff.
Yeah, I love it. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. So you basically give the feeling a bit of a persona, and then the
Hmm.
client is taking on that persona, or they're answering and responding to you as if they were that feeling. So
Hmm.
they're basically you're helping them self-discover what they're actually feeling, and then from
Yeah.
there, then you kind of like attack those feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost a hypnotic trance because
Okay.
she didn't know that she was going to say I'm holding her back. And I've done this work with people where they say the answer and then I see them come back online and they're like shocked. Like I did not know that's what was coming. And I've done this technique with myself even when I was having a lot of anxiety and my chest was really tight and I was actually like, okay, like talking to that part, which is, it's getting more and more common with things like parts work and internal family systems, but saying like, okay, I believe you're scared. What are you scared of right now? And you'll be amazed that you'll get an answer. If
Mm,
you ask, you get the answer and you can actually have the conversation. And it allows you to, instead of like constantly trying to attack this symptom or this experience or this state of being, to figure out how to partner with it. So, and I can go more into that too, as far as I worked with another client on inner criticism. And what I actually had her do is I had her tell me, I was like, talk to me the way you talk to you. Tell me all the things. And I had her dialogue with me on like, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. You're da 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 da. All these like awful things. And I was like, is that the tone you use? And she like beefed it up. You have no idea what's going on, and she starts really getting into it. And I was like, okay. And then we pause and I was like, okay, I'm going to trade places. When you're ready, I'm going to tell you that. And I'm still saying it in my voice. And she immediately, I see the reaction. I was like, there, what are you feeling right now? And we talked it through and I let her get into that state of like, I'm feeling this tightness here and expanding through it. And once she was in kind of a different state, I said, okay, stay tuned with your body. And I started to say the things. And she was like, that's not true. And she was able to say, like, that's not real. Like, you're just scared. I know you're scared. And was able to talk to this part. And she actually ended up building. I was like, okay, so the end of that session, we decided to pick a new job for her inner critic. And it was for discernment. So instead of saying, like, you're fucked up, she was like, the situation's fucked up. You don't belong here. And her, like, this voice that she'd had for years and years and years telling her, you're not good enough. You're doing this wrong, was able to turn outward instead and say, okay, what I actually want is to protect you. This situation isn't safe.
Wow.
I know.
That's that's
It's unreal.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Why do you think that working with the body is often more effective than just talking about mindset? Because mindset is everybody's jam, but your jam
Yeah.
is quite unique.
Very different. Yeah. And I'm not against mindset, but about 5% of your thoughts are conscious. And there is a secondary thing, which is congruence. So that is that when you are doing one thing and believe another, your brain kind of like schisms and gets mad. And not like in a schizophrenic way, but it's just like it'll stop you. So if you are saying, like, I'm really big on never say a mantra that you don't believe. You have to believe it a little bit. If you have a mantra that you're like, every day in every way I'm getting better and better, and you don't think that's true, pick something that feels real. Like, I'm working toward being the best version of myself. Boom, that could be true, but it has to feel true, because if it doesn't, what happens is your brain is searching for evidence that you're wrong, and it will highlight that. If you focus on things that don't feel actually aligned with who you are, you will pull yourself back. Your subconscious mind, it's that pulling back thing again, where it's like it will stop you in some way. And that's where I see the most self-sabotage, especially among leaders, where they're like, I know I'm qualified to lead this team, and they're absolutely qualified to lead the team, but they don't believe they're qualified to lead the team. And that's a physical thing where they will get those physical symptoms. They will get those weird little doubts. And we even say it's like in the back of my mind, right? It's not here where you're doing mindset. It's somewhere back here. There's just this little sense of doubt, sense of uncertainty. And all of those we experience physically. Usually it's like kind of people say, like, their posture changes when you have doubt. And so it's kind of the same idea behind power poses, right? That like your posture does impact how you show up. Your body will give you signals that your conscious mind won't. And I think that's why it works.
The power posing thing, the back of the mind, the gut feeling, all
Hmm.
these things. It's like all these body somatic principles have been all around us, and I'm just now realizing that. I want to talk about imposter syndrome, but I want to touch on the somatics a little bit.
Hmm.
What's one somatic exercise people could try right now while maybe listening to the podcast?
Okay, one of my favorites is to get behind your own eyes, which sounds insane, but pause for a second and notice if you're actually seeing out of your own eyes, or are you picturing yourself from outside? And this is more common with women, where they'll be picturing themselves from outside. But it's common with anybody who has to perform, right? Where you're actually imagining, and it's like, okay, where are you seeing yourself from right now? If you're seeing yourself like, oh, I'm on the right, oh, I'm staring right. Usually people aren't staring right at the front of themselves. They're off to a side. And it's like, can you move your vantage point till you're looking at the back of your head, and then move yourself forward until you're looking out of your own eyes? And once I do that, I'll have people ground, which is like one of those like grounding, I feel like has a lot of things. But all it is, okay, put your feet on the floor and notice the pressure of your feet on the floor. And then bring your attention up and notice everywhere that you're impacted by gravity. Maybe notice if you're on a chair, the back of your legs on the chair. Notice your butt on the chair if you're leaning back. And then notice how gravity kind of pulls down on your shoulders, how it impacts your posture. Usually you'll start to see people sink at this point. And then feel the weight of gravity on your jaw. Notice how it just wants to sink to the floor. Take a deep breath in and just let it out. And usually in that process, people are like, suddenly they're like, oh. It just tunes you into your body for a second. So it's a really good, quick one where it's first
Yeah.
notice if you're off somewhere, and then can you come back and then notice what it's like to be there. And I always start at the feet because most of us spend all of our times feeling like we're in our own heads, whereas it's like
Yeah.
it just brings your attention down for a second.
Yeah. And it grounds you, as you say, you're
Mhm.
right. And I even while you were doing that, I was resisting the feeling of just like sinking down in my chair too. I was like, wait,
Mhm.
I'm on video. Let me look kind of
Yeah.
sharp, but I'm just listening to you. It's like Andrew Huberman. He promoted an exercise like that too. Just kind of like revive yourself throughout the day. It's a quick
Mhm.
10-minute exercise where you do like a self check, different parts of your body. Notice the fabric on your skin. How's it feel? The
Mhm.
air on your arms, whatever. Okay, so I want to go into the imposter syndrome thing because there's been a trend of the conversation so far. A lot of leaders, of course, are struggling with imposter syndrome. What does it actually look like? And I know you've given examples already, but it shows up into the body in several ways. Like, what are some of the more, I guess, the drastic ways when people actually should probably seek some kind of help when it gets to that point?
Yeah. I think one is on paper, you're killing it, and in your own mind, you're not good enough. That's a big one where you are meeting your metrics, you're meeting your KPIs, you're doing all the things you're supposed to do. You're getting accolades and you're getting compliments, and your leaders tell you you're great, or the people who work for you tell you that you're great, and you feel tense, stressed, not good enough, never going to be good enough. If they really knew you, they wouldn't think so. That's a big one that I hear. Well, if they really knew me. And then the other one that I see is obsession with working more, doing more. I have to be better and better and better when you're already meeting all the requirements. There is something to be said for drive. And so I want to like build in there's a fine line here where it's like, no, I'm self motivated. I like doing things. And then there's something else when you are spending every minute working because that is your way to get some kind of validation that you aren't giving yourself internally. You're not giving, like, if you're somebody where you meet the goal and then immediately you're like, okay, what's the next goal? And you don't pause to celebrate, that's a sign you might have some of that kind of latent imposter syndrome too, because you are seeking something outside yourself that you're not ever letting yourself get or celebrate.
That's heavy. You're
Mhm.
talking directly to me. Yeah, I mean,
It's
like
super common, right?
yeah. I remember being part of sales organizations, and when I was not in the spot I'm in now, my close rate was really good. A lot of
Mhm.
the leaders would say, "Look what Jay's doing," and then I always felt all the time like, "Oh my gosh, this is the spotlight. I don't want it." Now I
Mhm.
feel like I'm held to a higher standard, but then I was actually holding the standard.
Mhm.
So I always felt like I needed to do better and I needed to do more and more and more.
Yeah.
So it was, you're right. And it's like, I never really took the time to celebrate until somebody said, "Hey man, you had a killer week. Let's unwind a little bit." Usually it's my girlfriend that does that, but it is something that I put a little bit more concentrated effort on because you have to celebrate the wins because that's why we're doing it in the first place. You're,
Exactly.
Jesse, you're talking directly to me. This whole conversation so far, it's super fascinating. All right, let's go here. How do some of the leaders, high performers, how do they start shifting from just faking the confidence to actually feeling the confidence?
So some of it is looking at like, where did you first get the idea that you weren't good enough? And this is where the trauma background comes in because it does, like, I try to be clear. Like, sometimes my containers, like, there are tears and there's success and there's joy and there's celebration, but I mean, we get into it. So, as far as where did you learn you weren't good enough? Where did you learn that you had to work harder than other people in order to get some kind of praise? Where did you learn that, like, sometimes goes into that love is earned? I've had that with a lot of leaders. Yeah, but they won't like me if I don't do that. Where did you had to be a certain way to be liked? And we get into some of those things and kind of heal some of those inner child wounds as well. Because from that comes, wait a minute, like if I like me, then you show up differently when you like yourself rather than when you are trying to obtain the like of somebody else, which is not how you say that at all in English. But you know what I mean? Like when you're trying to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
somebody else's validation versus being able to validate yourself, being able to acknowledge and actually feel like I did something that I wanted to do that I am proud of. And that's a big piece of it is learning how to fulfill some of that validation and need from internally, like how to do that for yourself.
Yeah, and people that are I'm in my circles, a lot of people are super successful in their businesses, in their lives. And yet we talk about this. We talk about
Hmm.
how we have this anxiety throughout our days. And yet, if you look at the track record for some of these individuals, it's like, yo, you've built this amazing business on LinkedIn. You've built this amazing agency, this coaching company, all of these really great, amazing things. But yet they still have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Why is it so common amongst people that are actually high achievers?
Because part of high achieving for a lot of people, let me back that up. For sure in Western society, I can't speak for everywhere. People, we are taught to move from discipline, to move from, oh, it's willpower and it's discipline and it's hard work. Far less often than we're taught to move from devotion. And I'm not getting religious here, but like being devoted to the work. Like I'm very much a mission driven leadership kind of person because if you are dedicated and devoted to the work, it actually becomes a joy and an opportunity when you get to do it. Versus if it's discipline, the people that get ahead are going to be the people that are good at forcing themselves to do things they don't want to do, which again brings up that congruence. Okay, I'm doing this, but if they knew deep down I really don't want to. And when you are creating that ongoing incongruence, then you're assuming this isn't really who I am. This is just what I'm showing people because I'm doing all the things. And you don't internalize it the same way as when it's, I'm somebody who shows up and does these things. You're like, I'm somebody who shows up, but I wish I don't actually want to show up. Any day now, I could decide not to be disciplined. What if I lost my discipline? What if then it's all going to come crumbling down? And so it's like you're building on this energy that isn't sustainable. And some part of you knows it. And you're like, and that's it. It's going to crumble. Instead of actually having like, no, nobody goes to work every single day and is like, I'm energized by my work, right? Like there are things that are going to be tough. But a lot of leaders, when you implement more of a devotional, mission driven approach, are like, no, wait, I get to do this. Like it's a reframe that does actually give you more energy and make you more committed to building and maintaining your energy, celebrating the wins because that's what keeps you going, doing the things that kind of nourish the ecosystem that is you.
Definitely. Yeah, because it's now something bigger than just the task
Mhm.
at hand. And when you reframe it that way, a lot of times in sales we talk about why are we even doing this if there's no problem to be solved, there's no solution to be bought.
Mhm.
So what does the solution give us? This big glorious outcome. And yeah, when you focus on that, then it becomes all this little minutia, the work included that to get there, the cost, it seems small in comparison to the big picture. And we've been talking a little bit about maybe the symptoms, the things that are
Mhm.
bad happening internally. But on the flip side to that, from imposter syndrome, there's confidence. So in your experience, what happens to a team or leader once they start showing up with confidence instead of that insecurity?
Oh my gosh, it's like the whole team gets on board because you're not faking it anymore. You're actually able to one really like sell your vision, right? Like you help the team feel like we are on a team going towards something, almost the way that like when you're on like a sports team, like you're like we all have a common goal. That feeling comes back of we are in this together. And the other thing I see a lot of is being better at actually leading your team because you're able to be with them instead of being in your head while you're with them. You're not worried about how they're perceiving you. You're showing up and actually putting your attention on them. And that's something I work on with people too, is like giving the individual attention to this person and letting it not be about you or what they think of you. What are you getting from them? And it makes it easier to figure out, okay, what actually drives this person? What is this person actually a good fit for? What are the projects that they are wishing would never land on their table versus what are the ones that they're like, when it gets on their desk, are like, yes, and you're able to delegate things a lot more smoothly. And the other thing that I see sometimes with imposter syndrome is that when you feel like you're a high achiever and it could all come crumbling at any minute, it's harder to delegate things. You get a little bit more in this need for control because you don't really feel like you are in control. of your situation, of your motivation, of your ability to lead. And so you end up trying to almost micromanage your team. And this way, it's like you get so much more time because you're able to actually say, no, this is what we're going for. And this person's the perfect fit for this job. And this person's the perfect fit for this job. And you can actually take all of these things on your to do list, know exactly where to send them so that they get done correctly, and how to motivate your team instead of how to kind of micromanage them and tell them what to do. You don't have to tell them if you know them well enough to know who's right for what job.
That's so good. I'm seeing that now. I work with other sales managers and I see that,
Hmm.
it's like, why are you micromanaging those guys?
Hmm.
And now I see why.
And it's a
Yeah.
recipe for burnout. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm worried this is all gonna come crumbling down. I'm worried my discipline's gonna run out, so I'm gonna use my discipline so hard that it actually will.
I see it now. I see that. And it's not a thing that's inherently bad about them. It's just they're struggling with maybe imposter syndrome.
Exactly, and it's one of the reasons that I even started moving away for a while from the, like, phrasing of imposter syndrome because it shows up in ways that I don't think people realize that's what's underlying it. For them, it's, "I'm burning out, I'm getting tired, I feel like I'm working all the time, I'm burning the candle at both ends, I can't seem to let this go."
Yeah, no, I see it very clearly now.
Mhm.
I in these people that I'm close with or that I've worked with in the past, I can totally see it. Wow. What's one piece of evidence you'd give someone struggling with that confidence? Any of the terms we use to call it today?
Would say I sometimes have people pause and, like, go back to, like, "Okay, when did you first develop this insecurity? Da, 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 da." And I'll actually have them, this is an inner child exercise, but, like, pause and remember. Like, "Okay, were you giving a presentation in class? Were you talking to your parents and they shushed you? What was it? What was that moment?" And actually visualize it. Step back for a second. Don't go into it, but remember it. Watch yourself from the outside and, like, what would you say to that kid? And it is incredible. And then sometimes I'll have them pause and say, okay, I want that kid to look at you. What do you think they would think looking at you? Because I've worked with some people who have done amazing things. And it's a moment where they realize they're like, yeah, 8-year old me would think I'm pretty cool. I'm like, right? Like, super cool. And it's amazing to see that and realize, like, wow, I don't think they would be able to believe what I've done. And there's something very healing about realizing that, like, you have become everything that, like, you could never have imagined. Because I work with people who do amazing things, and pausing and realizing that, like, you can show up for yourself that way. When the little kid you shows up and is like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm scared." It's like, what would you say to you? Because it
Mm,
plants the seed where then next time adult you is scared, you'll still say that thing, and you'll remember what little you said.
cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any resources or programs coming up that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I work with people one to one. Like I said, I do, like, we get almost shamanic with it. So I do one to one work with people. You can find me on LinkedIn. My website right now is reclaimyourlifesomatics.com. And soon will be drjessieglaze.com as I get my tech stack in order. That's my big September task. And yeah, I work with people one to one for 3 months to 6 months. That's pretty much it. I don't do a lot of other stuff. I like the depth that I get to, where we
Yeah.
actually get to resolve some of this stuff and I get to watch it happen. And it's not something that I can do at that depth in a group program.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's quite deep work. The circles I've been running in lately,
Hmm.
everyone has this anxiety, but then also
Hmm.
everyone has some kind of a coach that kind of helps them through their anxiety. And then we all share little things like this where try this exercise, do this NLP thing, do that. Jesse, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your wisdom with us. If you got a little light bulb moment, definitely reach out to Jesse. She just drops her resources. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you tune in for the next episode. I'm Jay. Thanks so much. Take care.